Alright, so I filmed videos 2 days in a row, and I realized, oh, I've got kind of the start of a streak going here. How about 3 days in a row? And then it became four, and I think this is number five if I counted correctly. So this is not obviously a sustainable pace. My name is Amanda, by the way. Welcome. I'm 24. In my previous videos, my age was a little bit more relevant because I was talking about college. It's not so relevant in this video, but I guess I'll just start all these videos with my name and age for now. And I thought, okay, what can I do for a fifth video? But that's low effort. Like, I'm just talking to the camera. I am not doing a tutorial, a DIY. I'm not filming anything that requires me to move the camera around. Just me in a chair talking. But I thought, sometimes I have trouble sleeping and I want to put something on in the background. And I know there are apps for that. But I like listening to somebody talk and I like having the unscripted nature of the talk. I like unscripted talks. I like just like the conversational stuff with like the apps or things that are specifically produced, videos that are specifically produced to help you fall asleep. There's just a little bit too much polish to it sometimes. Sometimes I just like to pick one of my favorite YouTubers, put their video on, and fall asleep watching it. Not because their stuff's boring, because I'm literally just that tired. And then when I wake up and have time, I'll go back and actually watch the video through without falling asleep. But I thought I could do a story time and maybe help somebody out there fall asleep. Or not. I'm not gonna say a boring story by any means. I'm just gonna talk for a while, maybe. Watch me say I'm gonna talk for a while and end up being one of my shorter videos. I don't know. But I thought I would just give since I talked about college in my last two videos, I could just do a story time about college. So I don't have a particular story in mind, so we're gonna figure this out together. What I'm talking about. I'm actually drinking a liquid death. For those who don't know, this is just sparkling water. Well, this particular flavor has. It's not just sparkling water, it's flavored sparkling water, but it also has agave nectar for sweetener, but it's only 3 grams of added sugar. Also has some electrolytes in it, which I think come from the lime and orange extracts, maybe. Anyway, I got this at Dollar Tree a while ago, and I didn't drink it because I was like, I tried a liquid death beforehand, and I was very underwhelmed by it. I was like, I've definitely tasted better sparkling waters before. Like, I like the oldie sparkling waters pretty well, and those ones don't have any sweeteners in them. So it's like I can consume unsweetened sparkling flavored water. It's not a matter of needing sweetener. It's just that I don't even remember what flavor it was. I just didn't like it. This one now this one does have sweetener in it. But this tastes just like Sprite. Now I'm not saying it's a 1-to-1, all right, but I was shocked by how much it tastes like Sprite for the fact that it doesn't have any of that extra stuff that Sprite has. Now, if you're like a daily pop drinker, you might drink this and you'd be like, Amanda, I have no idea what you're talking about. This doesn't taste like Sprite. It's the hint of Sprite, okay? It tastes like watered down Sprite, but still does taste like Sprite. Anyway, I know I'm 5 minutes in and I haven't actually talked about college yet, but like I said, this is not supposed to be the world's most riveting video, okay? Alright, college time. I'm just gonna start talking about freshman year to narrow it down, help me focus it in. Freshman year was pretty uneventful. I don't know that I really had any. A lot of my most interesting stories and a lot of the storytelling I do about college, especially when I meet new people, a lot of the storytelling I do about a lot of the stories that I tell about college tend to be from my junior and senior year. Not really so much my freshman and sophomore years of college. Oh, well, I do have an interesting story. I kind of forget about it because I want to forget about it. I actually have a blog that I don't ever post on, like legitimately. I think I've posted like once every 2 years on that blog. So saying I have a blog is like in the loosest sense of it. I'm, I'm not even really sure it counts. Um, excuse me. I'm choking on my spit. But my freshman year, long story short, I thought I was being stalked by somebody, a fellow student, because he just popped up everywhere. But I have the whole story written out in a blog post. If you're interested, I can give you the link. Otherwise, I'm not really going to talk about it because that was like an extremely freaky experience, and that was like my first entire month of college. Here I am, 18 years old, and I think someone is stalking me. I legitimately had to use the crisis helpline. You know, the one that gets advertised everywhere. I used the crisis text helpline because I was legitimately that freaked out. I had a mental breakdown one day because I was like, this guy's gonna find me. I mean, well, he did find me actually many times, but I mean, like, I was like, he's gonna do something besides talking to me. Like, he's got to escalate, right? Because this is like a month of extremely creepy behavior, and thank goodness he never did escalate. Um, I just became more and more cold. Because I was just like, at first I was like, okay, let me just be polite to, like, I mean, yeah, I don't want to talk to him at all, but, like, he's not, like, saying creepy things, and he's not, like, threatening me, so, like, why not just talk to him? And I'm like, well, actually, I really hate talking to this dude, because he's, like, one of the most boring people ever, and we have nothing in common, but he keeps talking to me, and he talks to me, like, who will literally, like, sprint across the library to come talk to me, even though I literally have earbuds in and am actively doing something. And so I just stopped. I stopped being nice. Now I was like, now if he said hi, I didn't just like ignore him. I said hi, but I would just be like, no emotion, no details. And eventually he stopped bothering me. But that was an extremely freaky time. Um, and I forgot about it, honestly. I forgot about it. Because I've processed it and put it behind me. But I do, I guess in that respect, I do have an interesting story from freshman year. Otherwise, pretty uneventful after that. I mean, freshman year, October, so 2 months after I started college, I declared my major, which was chemistry, if you watched my previous videos. Um, didn't make any friends freshman year. Also, if you have watched my previous videos, you'll know that already. But met a lot of really nice people. Took some great classes. I think my favorite class from freshman year was an education class I took. It was called Philosophical Perspectives in Education. One, because they're super fascinating, and the first education class I ever took. Um, like education is one of those more specialized fields that you don't have an opportunity to study, I guess, unless maybe you go to some private school or something. I don't know. I went to public school. One of those fields that you don't get to study until you go to college. Like, you do your basic history, science, math, English. You can also take music or art. Those are like the things that you can generally take in K through 12. Or I guess if you're not American, in primary school and secondary school, whatever. But stuff like education or philosophy, I never took a philosophy class. I wanted to say political science, but technically I did take political science in high school because I took AP government and AP comparative government. So AP US government and then AP comparative government, and those are actually political science classes. So I took political science in high school. Most people don't, but I did. There are some other things you don't necessarily study until you get to college. Um, I don't know, like business, I guess. Look, I was a STEM major. Okay, that's why it's like hard for me to come up with other stuff. Like I immediately jumped to stuff like biology or chemistry, which you can take. Like I did take those in high school. Um, anyway, back to the education class. I also really liked it because the professor was hilarious. Um, yeah, I can't like remember any particular incident. Well, actually, I do remember one joke that he told. He had to have some surgery. I don't remember what it is anymore, but I think something related to the hips. It might have been like an injury related thing because he's one of those avid bikers, like professional biker. And one day in class, he's like, I literally have pain in my, and then he whispered, ass. Um, and he said it more funny than that, but yeah, that's one of the jokes. It doesn't sound that funny when I say it, but I don't know. You're an 18-year-old. I was an 18-year-old. Delivery is really important. By the way, I'm not sick. It's just really cold outside, and look, I'm not one of those people. Thank goodness, I'm not one of those people that reacts to like changes in air pressure, in yeah, changes in atmospheric pressure, or oncoming storms or anything like that. Well, I mean those are similar. Those are like the same thing. But I do react to the temperature dropping. It doesn't matter what temperature it is inside. Now, I mean like the higher the temperature, like if it's like 70 right now, my house is set to 68 because my heating bill was way too high for December. Um, Now if it was 70, I'm gonna have less of a runny nose than if my house is set to 68. But regardless, I'm still gonna have a runny nose, whether it's 65, 68, 70, 72 degrees in my house because it's cold outside. Um, for the record, it's like 17 degrees outside or something with a wind chill that makes it like feel like 4 degrees. So I'm not sick. I just literally every single year I go through this. I use several boxes of tissues during the wintertime. Uh, any other interesting? Oh, freshman year of college is also when I decided that I wanted to become a college professor instead of being a K through 12 educator, instead of being a high school teacher specifically. It was actually my history professor who every single history class I took in college was the same professor, and it was on purpose. Um, I think I only took like, did I only take two history classes? I don't think that it sounds less impressive when I say it like that. I think I only took two history classes. I think you had to have two to graduate. Um, but I already had a history class I completed in high school. I got credit for the AP World History exam. I didn't actually take AP US History in high school. A lot of people, the pipeline was AP World to AP US History. I don't A push. I don't know why it was that way, but in my high school, if you were one of the AP honors kids, not to brag or anything, but if you took honors American history your freshman year of high school, the pipeline was you took AP World as a sophomore. I don't know why. Like and older students I talked to, because I was the class of 2018 in high school, older students that I talked to who were like in like the class of like 2015, 2016, for example, were surprised when I told them that I was in an AP class as a sophomore. So it was definitely not like a normal thing all the time. It was a newer thing when I took the class, but yeah, it was not. There were no juniors or seniors in that class. It was just a sophomore class. Like you didn't. It wasn't restricted to sophomores, but only sophomores took it at my high school. Um, and so the pipeline was took AP World as a sophomore, and then as a junior you took AP US History. Well, I didn't actually have room in my schedule to take AP US History. I also wanted to take AP Psychology. That was one of the things I didn't take. That was available to me. I wanted to, but there were other things I wanted to take more because I did choir all 4 years, and I also did journalism all 4 years because you were required to take the class. It just the way it was set up at my particular high school in order to be on the school newspaper. So those were two classes that automatically like I had in my schedule every year, and then the obvious English, math, science, English, math, science, social studies. So that's 6 classes, and there were only when I was in high school, there were 8 class periods. That has since changed to 7 class periods plus a lunch because when I was in high school, like they literally changed it the year after I graduated. So I was like, oh, thank goodness, I'm freed from this new schedule. But when I was in high school, the lunch period was the exact same length as a class, so it made it a really nice long break because it was like our class periods were like something strange, like 48 minutes long or something like that, and we had 10 minutes. We had 10 full minutes in between each class period to get to class because my high school was one story. It's just everything was on one floor, and so if you had a class in the front of the school and then you had your second class in the back of the school, and all the stuff in the back was like music and gym, all the like the practice rooms, and because we had 2 gymnasiums, and also the theater. So if you were taking a drama class, all that stuff was in the very back of the school. So it would take you 10 minutes to get from front to back of the school, because my school has like, I don't know, like 1,300 people. My high school has like 1,300 people in it or something like that. And so, you go down the wrong hallway, you'll get stuck in that hallway for a couple of minutes, just trying to like push through people, through crowds of people. And then, of course, there are those jerks that, like, stand in a circle talking in the middle of the hallway, and you're like, hey, I'm trying to get to class. And you're being a delinquent. They changed all of that after I graduated. Like, the time between classes, like, dropped down to, like, 4 minutes or something like that, to reduce delinquency, like, fights and stuff. Man, okay, now I've just started talking about high school, but anyway, I was talking about my history teacher. My history class, like this is, oh my gosh, like this is kind of I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for here. It's kind of sad to brag about this, I guess, because it's like, what, did you peak in college as opposed to like the peaking in high school person? No, I did not peak in college. Says a person who, anyway, no, I didn't. Genuinely, I did not. But my history professor. So I took American history. I don't remember like it was if what the specific title of the class was. But it was like from Christopher Columbus until I think it stopped right. I think it stopped at the Civil War. I think it stopped like we talked about the Civil War, and then that's where the class ended because um, you can't teach the entire history of America up till present day in one class. I mean, even that time period is a very long time period to cover in one semester. Um, at the end of that semester, my professor told me, like, I went to go pick up an exam from him because we had to go to his office. Like, they were all in his office, and this was like the last exam of the year, so we didn't have any more classes for him to pass out stuff. And he told me that I had the highest grade in the class. No, wait, it was in an email. No, I'm mixing up two stories here. So at the end of the semester, he sent me an email saying I had the highest grade in the class out of all like 108 of his students or something, and that made me feel so good about myself because I had over a 100% in that class. The way he graded was that now they're like I'm an education nerd. I got an educational studies minor. I want to go into education. Um, I've done education research projects before in undergrad and some education research after I graduated undergrad. There are different. I don't think this professor was intentionally trying to, do one of these newer. I can't think of any of the words right now because I haven't actually done education research in years. But there are newer styles of grading, um, things like mastery grading or proficiency based grading. I don't think he was intentionally trying to do any of those things. Um, but the way he graded was that you only had to get an 80% on the quiz or exam. There was something like, there were like 12 questions on every quiz, and then there was like, I don't know, like 8 questions on every exam or something. Because the exams had longer questions. They had more like short essay questions, and the quizzes had more like one word answers. No, no, no. The quizzes were multiple choice. The exams were like short answer. Um, but anyways, he always had it so that like you could miss one or two questions and still get 100% on the exam because he didn't expect you to know everything because we our textbook was like some like 600-page thing, and we would have to read like we would cover like a couple of chapters worth of topics because like I said, Christopher Columbus up through the Civil War, that's a long period of time. um yeah. And so, in recognition of the fact that like we covered a lot, we sometimes cover like 150 pages of material in a week or something, and we had weekly quizzes. But the thing was that it so ended up being that I just loved that class. I love, not that I love American history. Like, I think American history is fine. I like history in general. Learning about what has come before us to not repeat the mistakes of the past. Learn the context of the present day. For whatever reason, the stuff just stuck in my head. Like, I didn't even study that hard. All I did was I took notes. That was my secret to success. Secret, quote unquote. Like, I just took notes. I'm sure I skimmed. I don't really remember how I like got through all that material each week. Um, but yeah, I took notes. I probably like highlighted my notes, and color coded them. I have a taking system. Like when you buy a pack of highlighters, there's typically four highlighters. One of them's yellow, one of them's pink, one of them is orange, and the last one's green. Or actually, usually five, and then there's blue. So I color coded each of those colors to mean a different thing. So yellow highlight was just any kind of like general important thing. Pink highlighter was the most important stuff. Like, if you're gonna remember anything, remember the stuff highlighted in pink. Blue was for definitions, which didn't necessarily correspond to history, but in some of my other classes, um, there were lots of words and phrases that I needed to define for myself. Uh, Orange was just for like miscellaneous stuff. Like, I think orange was more important than yellow. I think that's how I did it. And then green, I think it just depended on the class what I highlighted with green. Like, sometimes green was like stuff I had questions about or like was confused about, or um green could be maybe stuff that I thought was interesting but wasn't necessarily important for the class. Anyway, I it's been a while since I've been in. It's only been a while, she says, when it's been under 3 years. I don't fully remember my color coding system anymore, but I did stuff like that, and so it ended up happening that I usually got there. I'm sure there was at least a couple, one or two instances where I didn't get all the questions right, but on most of the quizzes and exams, I got every single question right, and so I ended the class with I think literally 113%, and that felt good. That felt real good. But anyway, I say all this because one day I was picking up an exam for my professor, and so this was in his office. Like this wasn't in front of other people. Okay, it was just like Amanda. I don't know why that was important to tell you, but just like I don't know, so you can visualize the scene. What do you want to do as a career? And I was like, oh, I want to be a teacher. And he's like, I think I might have said high school teacher or something. He's like, have you ever considered college? And I was like, no, I haven't. And he's like, something, he said something like, well, you should consider it. And I was like, well, I want to teach high school because there's a more opportunities to reach people because more people go to high school than go to college. Now everyone goes to college, but almost everyone goes to high school. And he was like, you can't reach everybody. You can still reach a lot of people in college too, and I don't know, for whatever reason, like I wish I remembered it better because the conversation flowed a little bit more smoothly than that. But like that conversation like was one of those like brain exploding conversations for me as an 18-year-old. I was like, dang, he's so right. I can't help everybody. I'm not going to make a difference in every single student's life that comes through my classroom, right? Um, I mean, I just know intuitively as a student, it's not like every single teacher had an enormous impact on my life. There are a lot of teachers that are like forgettable, which is good because I know people who like whose teachers literally bullied them in elementary, middle, and or high school. So a forgettable teacher is not by any means a bad teacher. It just means they were average, um, which is better than a bully teacher. And anyway, yeah, I mean, you can't make a big impact on everybody's life because there's just a lot of people. You teach a lot of people every year. So there's really only maybe going to be like a handful of students that are like truly going to remember you and think that like you had a special difference in their lives, and that's perfectly fine. That's normal. And realizing that I could still make a really big difference in people's lives if I taught at the college level. Um, and that it wasn't necessarily better, like in terms of having more impact, that it wasn't necessarily better to teach at the high school level instead of the college level. That like lived in the back of my brain. Like I didn't actually decide to become a college professor, like as my goal job. I didn't decide that my freshman year. I decided it like my junior year, I think. Um, because I stayed in the teacher education program. Like you have to apply to like the I think this works like this at every college. You take some prerequisite classes, and then once you complete all of those, you can apply to join the official teacher program, and then that unlocks your ability to take the higher level classes in the major. I did all that, took all the prerequisite classes, And then I applied to and got admitted into the program. And then after that, I decided, nope, I'm actually not going to become a high school teacher. Um, I remember, I think I just like told my advisor because at my college, because it was a small college of like, I think right now our enrollment's like 1,100 students, which is not good because the way that my school is organized, it's supposed to have like ideally about 2,000 students. And anyway, like it's in horrible financial trouble, and like all of us alumni are afraid that it's like going to close in the next 5 years or something. But because they just laid off like I think 30, almost 40% of the staff, including professors, um, for the upcoming academic year. Or, I know I think everyone's jobs were safe for the 25 to 26 academic year. I think it starts in 2026 or something like that. Anyway, don't quote me. But what was I saying before that? Oh, I think I just told my education advisor like, hey, I'm not gonna do this, and like that was the end of that. I don't think I had to like fill out a form to withdraw, or maybe probably emailed like the head of the education department. I was like, hey, I'm not actually going through with the teacher education program. Like, you can cut me out of the list. Um, so I actually had three advisors in college. I had my major advisor for chemistry, and I had my educational studies advisor, and then I also have a science. No, I also have a minor in political science. I have two minors, so I had a minor for political science. Oh my god! Clearly, I'm filling this at night after a long work day. I also had an advisor in political science, and at my college, again because we're a small college, all of your advisors are professors. I know at larger schools you have someone whose job is literally just to be an advisor, and that's all they do. I mean, I'm sure they might do other things as well, but they're not a professor. But because at my college, your advisors are professors, there are, I do know my best friend actually does have, had the experience of like, where like, she had some misadventures with advising because the professors she had did not necessarily advise her in the most comprehensive of ways. They're just kind of like, oh, I trust that you know what to do with yourself, and signed off. Because in my college, the your professor has to sign off on, not literally, but like in the way our electronic system works, you have to get approval from your advisor in order to register for classes for the next semester. They have to, theoretically, what's supposed to happen is that you're supposed to have a sit down conversation with your advisor, um, and you talk about what classes you want to take, and they'll say, oh, that's a good idea, that's not a good idea, here's what I recommend, and why. And then once you've hashed all that out, then they check the little box on their portal, and that unlocks your ability to register for classes. For me, it worked out like how I just described. I had a conversation with all my advisors. They would approve my plans, they would talk it out with me. Uh, we made sure that I was on track to graduate, that I was meeting all of my requirements for my major or my minor, and that my plan, like, that my timeline, like I said, that like I was on track. That I was taking enough classes to be able to finish in 4 years, and that I wasn't overloading myself with too many difficult classes in one semester and things like that. But yeah, some people did not have that experience, and basically I had to sink or swim. But yeah, my advising went really well. That's what I said. I said in my previous videos, I have my educational experiences are an anomaly, because when I talk to other people, I'm like, yeah, I just had such amazing teachers. Like, now I did have a couple of ones that were kind of forgettable, mediocre. Even have a couple that were just like bad at teaching. But vast majority, like super amazing people who like went out of their way to give me advice and praise and like I would hang out with them during my lunch periods. I mean, because I was a friendless individual, but stuff like that. Um, Wrote me great recommendation letters. Uh, I became friends with some of my college professors after I graduated. Like all these different things, and just like they gave me so much great life advice that like changed my entire life path. Not just career advice, but just life advice in general, like advice about mental health. And then some people had teachers who literally bullied them and like told them that they weren't going to succeed in life. And man, just really makes me grateful for the experiences I did have. You know, if you believe in destiny or whatever, I don't necessarily believe in destiny, but I do kind of believe in like nudges from the universe. Perhaps I was destined to become a teacher with all of these positive educational experiences. That I wanna do the same thing for other people. Um, yeah, I feel like there was another point I wanted to make about advising. Oh yes, it was that because in my school we have professors as advisors. Like that sounds really like that theoretically that sounds like your advisor be a super knowledgeable person in how your major works, because if you have a college advisor, I don't know, like depending on how big your school is, they might advise like hundreds of people, right? And they might not necessarily like it's their job to be up to date on all the graduation requirements and all the requirements for your major, right? There's also always the disclaimer of, oh, but you ultimately are the person responsible for making sure you graduate on time, because your advisor might make a mistake, but you can't blame it on them because you also have to double check all the stuff yourself. um, with my school, with professors, um, like they're the ones teaching the classes, they're the ones approving people to graduate. Theoretically, they should know exactly what classes are required to graduate. And like I said, in my experience, that's exactly what happened. My advisors told me all the right information, gave me really good advice. I graduated in 4 years. I finished all the minors that I signed up for. Bada bing, bada boom. Smooth sailing. But yeah, just because someone is a professor doesn't mean that they know like what just because someone is like a professor in, I don't know, environmental science doesn't mean they know all the exact class that they memorize the list of classes you have to take to graduate. But my professors were awesome. They knew what was up. Not that they memorized the list. It's just like that there were obviously like on the website is it listed all the classes you need to graduate with your major, your minor, whatever. And my professors actually looked at that stuff, and they're like, "Yep, you're taking that class that you need. Thumbs up." And my advisors always said that they loved, well, one, they just loved having me as an advisee, and two, they loved when advising time came around because like I said, our university made it so that you have to meet with your advisor, and then your advisor has to check a little box online before you're allowed to sign up for classes. And they liked when advising time came around because they didn't have to give me any advice at all. Actually, like I loved, this sounds weird, but I know there are people out there who relate. I loved checking my graduation requirements. Like I had a Google Sheets spreadsheet where I it's all color coded, and it listed out every single class I needed to graduate for my major and both of my minors, and exactly when those classes were offered. Because some of the more, well, actually, all of the more specialized classes, um, especially since I took one of the less popular especially since I majored in one of the less popular subjects. Like I said in a previous video, in the class of 2022, there were exactly 4 people who graduated with a chemistry degree, and I was one of them. So, in the less popular subjects, the classes are not offered as often because there's not as much demand, so they're not offered every single year. So I had to be very careful about stuff like that, because like if I missed that year, I gotta wait 2 more years. Like I legitimately had some classes that were only offered in the spring semester of even numbered years, or only offered in the fall semester of odd numbered years. And so if you missed it, you had to wait 2 more years. And if you're a junior, you don't have 2 more years, or at least you don't want to have 2 more years, because theoretically you're only ideally gonna have 1 more year, right? And especially bad if you're a senior and you didn't sign up for the class in time. Then you gotta take a 6th year. Man, that's real unfortunate. So the way my spreadsheet was laid out was that I had every semester from freshman, like fall semester, all the way through spring senior semester laid out, and then I had all the classes that I needed to take filled in. Like since the beginning, since freshman year of college, I had all 8 semesters filled out. Now, like, they weren't completely filled out because I left space to take fun classes, and I left some wiggle room because some classes like were offered every year, and so maybe I'll take it junior year instead of sophomore year, or maybe I'll take it in the spring instead of the fall. So there's wiggle room built in, and it, like, I changed that plan slightly several times throughout my 4 years of college. But yeah, I had that spreadsheet, and I had fun. I had fun every semester updating that spreadsheet, because I would update it after I signed up for classes or after the semester was over or whatever. I think I did a mix of both throughout the 4 years of college. But I would update the spreadsheet to reflect what classes I actually ended up taking, so I could make sure I was hitting all of my general education requirements and other graduation requirements. And I had the spreadsheet color coded. Like, I had one color for gen eds, I had another color for all my chemistry major classes, I had a third color for my education classes, a fourth color for my political science classes, and a fifth color for fun classes, as well as a sixth color for classes that don't. Oh, actually, no, I think it was color number 5, fun classes that don't like meet any graduation requirements. So I think I had 5 different colors. Might have had 6, but something like that. And I also had another little segment of my spreadsheet, which was for all the classes that I got credit for in high school, because like most of the classes I took in high school counted as general education requirements in college. Now, one of the classes I took in high school could have saved my parents like the $98 or whatever and not taking the AP exam, because it ended up counting for nothing for me. But I took AP Environmental Science in high school, and the thing is, like, I'm not saying it was a worthwhile class. I learned stuff. But what happened was, I did not major in environmental science, and I did not, like, choose to go into an environmental science field after college, and the only thing in that class counted for was for my science general education requirement. But the thing is, I literally majored in science, so I was gonna fulfill that gen ed requirement no matter what, because I took a crap ton of science classes. So it just ended up being not counting for anything for me, because there's also another consideration. Every college you have to hit a certain number of credits to graduate, and sometimes for my college, because it was small, everybody had the same number of credits to graduate. It was like 126, I think, credits required to graduate. In larger universities, it depends on your major. Different majors have different credit requirements, but for me, I exceeded the credit requirements. I graduated with like 152 credits, so I had an entire semester's worth of extra credits, which makes sense because I took about a semester's worth of high school. I took about a semester's worth of college classes when I was in high school. Well, I mean, I took more college classes than that, but I didn't pass the AP Calculus exam, and I didn't take the AP Statistics exam because I was so confused in AP Statistics. I was just like, if I'm gonna take statistics in the future, like I'm not even gonna bother with the stats exam. Like I know I'm gonna fail that. If I need the class in the future, I'll just take the class again. And I did end up taking the class in college. It wasn't even for a graduation requirement. I was just like, man, I should learn some statistics. So I took it. No, like, I took it because I thought I was going to graduate school. And the research I wanted to do, like, lots of. Knowing statistics is just good in general if you want to become a researcher. Unless you're becoming, like, I don't know, like an anthropology researcher or something like that. Maybe, well, I still feel like statistics is relevant if you're doing a humanities type research. I guess unless you're gonna become like a creative writing student, maybe you don't need statistics. But in STEM, stats is pretty useful for research purposes. So yeah, I ended up taking stats in college. I think it was my senior year that I took it. Yeah, and I did well. I did way better in calculus and stats in college than I did in high school. I think I was just having taken it already. Like just by virtue of it being the second time I took the class, I think it was way better. But also I think the way it was taught, like my AP calculus teacher in high school was super good at teaching. But I think just the different teaching styles of my professors in college as opposed to my high school teachers, I think just my college professors, their teaching styles resonated with me a little bit more. So that's a part of why I was successful. But anyway, I now see that I've been talking for almost 47 minutes, not almost, over 47 minutes. And I have just like clearly started to really, I mean, I even like super slouched over my chair. I am like becoming really tired, and my quality of my speech is rapidly declining. So I just should end the video now before I become incomprehensible. So, thank you for listening and hanging out. I will talk to you again soon.